Well, as I'm working on the seats for my two stagecoaches from Yellowstone Park, this is the 8 passenger and that's the 11, and I have the original irons off of that 11, but I don't have anything from this 8 because this is just going to be built from scratch. So I'm going to start to do the ironwork off of the 11 and make a duplicate set for this 8. Now the driver's seat iron and the passenger seat iron are both the same for the seat arms, but the back irons that come up to the backrest are a little bit different. These backrest irons for the 11 are 3/4 of an inch wide, and they're between 5/16 and 3/8, closer to 5/16, but they are a little more of a half round surface, and these have screws into the backrest because the driver leans up against these. But these irons here for the armrest are closer to 1/4 of an inch, but these are only 7/8 of an inch wide, and they don't make 7/8 of an inch anymore to my knowledge. And the backrest irons for the passengers are close to a half round, but they have a little more of a flat surface right through the center because these get bolted on instead of screwed on. So it's rounded corners with just a little bit of flat in the middle. And then these irons for the handrail are also 7/8 by 1/4. So these are the backrest irons for the second seat off the 11 that I have kept off just so I could measure off of them and use them for patterns. You can see these are 3/4 of an inch wide and almost 3/8 of an inch thick. And again, close to half round. We have about an 1/8 inch flat edge on both sides here so that round doesn't come down to a point. And then the bottom where there's a bolt up through the frame, this is not half round, this is more transitioning into a flat. And then these irons for the armrest, again, they're 1/4 by 7/8. So I'm actually going to start out this whole process with some 1/4 by 1, and I'm going to bring this down to 7/8 for the armrest irons, and then I'll bring this down further to a 3/4, which will increase the thickness. Hopefully I'm going to get to that 5/16 to 3/8. Then I'll have to do the half round on all of that. So the first goal is to adjust this iron for just this section of the iron for the seats. And I'll worry about the upright and the actual armrest as a second step. So these irons are 1/4 by 7/8, and they don't make 7/8 anymore. But these are 3/8 by 3/4. Why don't you just go down and buy some 3/8 by 3/4 and save all this step of reshaping 1/4 by 1? Well, that's part of the fun of blacksmithing, is taking your parent stock and shaping it all around to something that is different than what you started with. I don't have on hand any 3/8 by 3/4. That's kind of an odd size for me, but I keep a lot of 1/4 by 1. So I'm just going to reshape what I have and it'll work. So I am going to use this Anyang. It's an 88 pounder. And I don't have all the tooling set up on this. This is only about 9 years old. It's relatively new. So to do this resizing from the 1 inch down to 7/8 and 3/4, I've started making a few kiss blocks that I can bolt onto this. I have a 3/8 and a 3/4, but I don't have a 7/8, so I have to make one of those first. But this 3/4 will work for the backrest irons, and that just bolts on to my lower anvil. So what I did before for my 3/4, I took a 3/8 by 1 1/4 and just put a 90 degree on it and then double stacked it So the double 3/8 give me my 3/4. Well, I'm going to do the same with this. This is a 3/8 by 1.5 inches. I'll put a 90-degree bend in it. And then I have a piece of 1/2 inch on top of that 3/8, and that's going to give me my 7/8 thick kiss block for the flat bar on my arm rails. And this will give me my kiss block for the 3/4 on the backrests. A little past 90. That's better. So we want to start out roughly with about 10 inches. between 9.5 and 10, so I'm going to go with 10 to start with. So this was a piece of scrap that I had in my pile. I'm 22 inches. Actually, I only need 20. So I'm going to cut 3 more pieces that are about 20 inches. That'll make the rest of my flat braces. So on our backrest irons, this bottom portion here that goes through the frame stays a little square. We're kind of beveled off just with hammer work there. And it has kind of a sharp corner right here, and we need to be about 1.25 inches long. So we need to come back that 1.25 inches, but I'm actually going to come back maybe about 1 3/8 inches. In order to get this square corner, I think I'm going to have to bend it, and then I'm going to have to upset it. Otherwise, this is going to be a round corner, and we want it square. So I'm going to bend it a little bit long, upset it into it, and try to get that square corner. Then I'll work on doing this round shape up through here. So I've got a 3/4 inch half round swage hammer here. I'm going to actually use this in my trip hammer, and I'm going to form that into this swage and try to round off these corners, and I think it'll leave me just a little bit flat inside. That's my plan anyway. Here's where we are so far. I don't know if I need to adjust that just a little bit. I am maybe an 1/8 inch longer on this toe here. I could just grind that off maybe and reshape that. I think we're going to be pretty close. We're just right there. This little difference I don't think would be a big deal. Now, it might have been a fluke that I did it once. I got to see if I can do it 3 more times. Well, there's a couple of things that you might have noticed through the course of this video. And one of them is when I was doing the compressing and drawing out of the 1/4x1 into 7/8 and 3/4, the sound wasn't really very good. And my thinking was that this microphone that I carry with me was probably going to pick up too much of that, so I just went to the camera microphone. But as I was editing it, I noticed that there is something in the camera that when it is that close to something that loud, it automatically deadens that noise. So it was actually not very good audio through that. When I was doing the swaging of this piece here, I left my lapel mic on and it actually recorded the sound better. So apologize for the poor audio. And another thing is, you who do blacksmithing better than I do probably notice that I use that swaging hammer upside down in that power hammer. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to take and use the hammer on top of your iron. You know, that's the benefit of me never having gone to blacksmithing school. I've never been instructed on any of that, so I have a license to do things kind of how I want. If it's right or wrong, I just look at, does it work? And in this case, I think it worked pretty slick. So anyway, I still have 3 more to go. I think I kind of have it figured out now, just how to make it work. When I do the irons for the arm rails, those are pretty straightforward. I don't have to reshape those. I just have to get them bent in the right spot. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and keep on picking away at these. These were actually kind of fun, and they turned out just right. Appreciate you coming along. Thanks for watching.